for many reasons. Sometimes it's great to have a visual deterrent and then have your principal in a different floor with a very low key operation. But the point is that you can use technology and AI specifically to help you in many of today's security operations, and it's just growing and growing and growing. That's the way we see it here at Technon.
I like it. So it's growing and growing and growing. But what I've been doing this entire event is saying, let's find an example. Let's find it. And maybe Carl, you are the example, because the SOC, is it or is it not the place where AI can most be harnessed, or is that just a popular idea?
No, it definitely can, and it is the right place. Of course, depending on what you operate in the SOC, but I can say 85% of them, it is a benefit. And talking about paperless, as you suggested earlier, yeah, definitely is one of the key points, but not just because of being paper, because of the data analysis you're able to do when it's not in paper, the speed, accuracy, dashboards, results, they're just immediate. And you only get to see what you want to see. You can filter things. Archiving is much better. You have a tool to your hand. That's what it is. Definitely the SOC is the right place for the physical security industry to get AI and automation, because that's part of the nature of having a SOC, having everything automated, integrated. And then, like Joe said, once you have that, then have a correct protocol in place of what to do with all that information.
But then if I stick with you, Carl, it seems that one challenge that we will face is verifying the AI. And so, you know, none of us are AI experts, or maybe Joe's an AI expert, but, you know, none of us are really, you know, very technical in AI. So how would a physical security specialist begin to find out if the AI is correct? I think that's a question that's quite important for physical security, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, the operator or dispatcher in a SOC doesn't have to be an expert in the technology itself. He needs to know how to use the technology and how to interpret what the tool produces for him. Now, that's part of the protocol. You need to know once you get an alert, or if it's a real threat that has been confirmed, then you need to know what the protocol is. That's their job. But you don't have to be an expert in anything techy at all whatsoever. You have to be a good end user of that technology and that data. That's what counts. If you're able to do that, you've accomplished it. Now, it's also good for us as owners of the site, because the profile of the operators that you're looking for is much easier to find. And the operator will not be exhausted in an 8-hour shift, because they're just going to focus on what they're supposed to do, and they don't have to be experts in anything. So that's the huge difference. That's the benefit of having it.
I like it. And Michael, I know this probably is harder to tell, but how could you prove that your AI solution is in fact working? Do you have to do manual run-throughs with people to say, look at all this, and look, I came to the same conclusion with tracking? I don't know. How would you prove it?
To some extent, yes, I'd say, like, for example, we do some integrations with threat monitoring systems. So you may have threat monitoring set up where we're alerted to, hey, there's a protest at the Capitol today. Well, that's great, but who is either at the Capitol or in the area of the Capitol today? Do we go check, you know, our papers or logs? Where is everyone? No, what we want to do is integrate the tracking system with the threat monitoring. And now instantly the threat pops up and it tells me, okay, trackers 1, 3, and 5 are at the Capitol, and tracker 6 is within a half a mile. And I immediately know who we need to focus on, right? So the operators have to go compare these things and line up all the dots. They're already there for them. But what they may want to do, again, just as you said, do I just rely on this? This is always working, or do we do some testing? You know, a monthly test maybe. You know, we don't. If someone carries a firearm, they don't just always carry it. They check it, they clean it, you know, bring it to the range, learn how to use it. So the same thing with these systems. You need to do some sort of check to ensure that this logic and these things that you think are going to happen are really going to happen when they need to. We're not going to completely remove, you know, the human factor from it. You still need that person to say, is the logic working, you know, the way it should be. And if the system's designed well, just like Carl said, the focus of that operator is on all these other things, not how does TCP work and how do I, you know, switch over to a secondary tracker, or How do I compare these results? The systems are doing that for them.
Okay, I can visualize that. I think that is perhaps the way forward. And of course, we can ask some of the AI experts throughout this event for their help. But then we've got to see if we trust them, because we have to test it. I like it. Joe, what then would the corporate security director of the future need in terms of a skill set to handle this, to juggle this, coordinate this? I'm looking for a vocabulary, in relation to AI, but I'm not quite sure it's there.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's a field that is evolving very, very quickly. And then one thing that I just paid attention here is that, because maybe the way that we were talking about this panel initially, we're right now focusing on the physical directors, security directors use of AI in the physical space, right? But that's just a little piece of the equation, right? Because if you have a physical director is protecting, when we say physical, we're talking about a specific physical asset, right? A campus, a residence, a city. It can be different levels, but what are you protecting it from? So any good security director will conduct a very thorough threat assessment and the risk assessment, and will understand what is he protecting against. And so for that part of the equation that we didn't really focus on today, we were talking about perimeter security, detection, and all these things. But there's a whole myriad of tools that we can use AI for in terms of understanding our threat better, right? And that actually goes both ways. So that's also a challenge, right? So we can understand, take even Google Earth, right? So there's so much stuff that you have out there today that is actually based on AI that helps you as a security director to plan your security operations. But at the same time, it also helps the bad guys plan their hostile, planning, right? And then we can also go into the whole cyber meets physical, which is a fascinating topic that is also very related to keeping your assets safe. And so there's an endless amount of possibilities here for the use of that. So basically what I would say is the corporate director or physical director of the future, or any security director of the future, has to take all of what's happening, like Miyamoto Musashi said, right? Know yourself, know your enemy, know your environment. This is the environment today, right? This is what's happening. So we have to be, we have to educate ourselves in that, listen to podcasts, read articles, do a course if you can, go to a fantastic, conference put on by CTG. Get out there. There's a ton of tools today, and there's no excuse for not being, up to date on what's happening. It's a lot sometimes, but it's doable. So I think it's critical for any security practitioner, let alone manager or director, to be on top of this. Very important.
Thank you. No, and I very much agree, of course, with the point about conferences. Very, very, very key. Going to Carl, James in the audience. Hi, James. He agrees with you. A SOC is a great place for AI and automation due to the speed of data analysis. But you know what? I don't know if we can top what Joe just said. But what do you think the security director of tomorrow is going to need in terms of a skill set? Because is it going to be the same skill set, or is it going to be the who you're going to call strategy? And Joe did make a very good point. Of course, we're talking about AI and automation in the physical security world, but the cyber world is open to you as well. It's not the preserve of hackers. It's for you. But what would the corporate security director look like?
Well, the corporate security director has to evolve, just like technology. You don't have to know everything that exists. You don't have to know how it works, but you need to know what's available out there, and then adapt to your specific site or needs. Just like the threats evolve as well. The bad guys evolve. You have to evolve at the same rate of speed or a little bit faster. Even when you think you have it all solved and you've got it under control, it changes by the minute. That's how the game works. So there's no future that is clear right now. You just have to adapt by the day, by the moment, by the threat. A good example was last year. Pandemic changed everything for any security director. No one was prepared. It changed. When you think you have it solved, it changes again. So I think the future is right now. whatever's available to you, know that it's there, use what works for you, because not everything does, and implement it quick. I think that's how we should do it.
And we never know when a particular person will not be able to get to do the job that you thought they'd be able to. So some automation could be that thing.
Let me just throw in there. I don't want to jump in, but maybe another skill is to have humility. You know, if it's something you can't really dominate, which none of us will, hey, call someone who does know, bring them in, say, hey, help me with this. I don't know, and you know, ask for help.
Don't be afraid to ask. Yep.
I like it. What about you, Michael? I remember you know, trying the convergence theme you know, a few years ago, and even then there were physical specialists that said, I can't because it has the word technology in it. And I think that mindset has changed. What do you think?
Yeah, it's become, this is cross. It's become a lot simpler. You don't have to understand all these systems in depth. You know, go to the conferences, go to the exhibitions, see what's out there, see what's available. Talk, you know, to the companies that are looking to deal with. When we have a new client that we talk to, and we try to identify the pain, what they're trying to accomplish. You know, sometimes there's a solution that they hadn't even thought of. You know, they didn't know it existed. They didn't know we could do that type of integration with another thing, and they've been doing it the hard way, or the time-consuming way. You know, and we come in and try to ease that pain. As a developer, if a solution doesn't exist, well, maybe we create one, you know, where one didn't exist. But yeah, just knowing the technology and talking to different companies just to see what's out there, what you can piece together, demo it, see what works, make sure it's secure. These integrations are great, but you don't want to take a really secure system and then integrate with something and open a big hole, as Joe and the other guys on the cyber side might know better. You know, that's a big thing with us. The tracking systems are great, but they need to be secure because they can work against you, just like the cyber end can as well.
I like it. And then maybe we can draw parallels when we were talking to our cyber panels earlier between mitigation and remediation, because the moment that you employ mitigation, perhaps it will be in a camera system, Carl, or maybe it will be in some sort of threat intelligence, Joe. But when you let it do mitigation, remediation, they could end up directing your stuff for you, or they could end up doing something else. Joe, is there a distinction there, that or am I imagining it?
I prefer the word prevention, actually, even before mitigation, right? So I prefer using all of this to help us prevent the bad things that can happen.
But is there one step too far, perhaps, in your mind, where you let it act on your behalf?
I think that's a mistake. Again, like, you know, like we were saying before, I think at the end of the day, at the decision-making level, it still is and probably will remain at the human level. Just because there's so many variables that are not, you know, the smartest machine in the world can still not make that call, right? So, but when it comes to enhancing our sensors, so to say, right, visual, etc., then of course we can leverage and we can use that. Mostly, again, hopefully for prevention, right? So for catching that problem way out there where you can have time and space to go and solve it. Whereas if you don't have this AI, you know, you're going to be catching your tail behind the ball all the time. To be proactive using AI.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, this is our first short but sweet look at the world of physical security and AI. I'm very pleased to be joined by Joe, Carl, and Michael. Please give them a fantastic virtual round of applause. And we look forward to seeing you in the audience, and I hope to be able to be let into the country soon.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.